As we await the promised April unveiling of large parts of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, we've been greeted by an official interview with a team member working on the remake, Shinichiro Biwa. From the Biwa interview, we learned and confirmed quite a few major points about the remake. This is Radical Edward for Less Than Epic, and let's dive into the Biwa interview to see what we can learn about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Shinichiro Biwa is the planner for the first business division at Square Enix. The first business division is the division led by one Yoshinori Kitase, who, if you need a refresher, is the director of many fantastic titles, including one very special title, the original Final Fantasy VII. To be planner of the Division 1 at Square Enix means that Biwa has quite a bit of influence over the development of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, meaning all of the info in this interview is sure to be straight from the depths of the development efforts. Now that we've sourced our info, let's see what Biwa had to say about the remake. The first thing Biwa has to say is that devs have creative freedom and room to pursue their passion on the project. Devs can directly make suggestions to the director, Tetsuya Nomura. Nomura, for those who don't know, was the character designer and battle visual director for the original Final Fantasy VII and has worked on many other titles in and out of the VII lore base. He's a very accomplished game designer and director and is exactly the kind of professional you want all creative ideas passing through. Anyway, even with creative freedom, Biwa stresses that the story of the game, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, was already decided by the original game and will have a linear progression much like the original Final Fantasy VII. It's at least good to hear that while the dev team has the freedom to pursue their passions, they're sticking true to the original formula, story, and events of the original Final Fantasy VII. Biwa also stated that level playtesting is done for large parts of the game and that playtesters felt good about the levels that they played. Biwa felt that their level design was one of the great successes on the project so far. For Biwa to speak this way, it suggests that the game may be farther into development than we may have originally thought. Even so, it's clear that much development is still to be done on the game, as Biwa confirms that the planning phase for all locations is already settled. Biwa states that they have already entered the building phase and the locations are already taking shape and getting closer to how they imagined them. So basically, while large chunks of the game are already done, there's still a lot of development left to do on the game, but let's move on. Quote, "While the Final Fantasy VII Remake is an RPG with action elements, and while we have the freedom to create levels from a view of it being a complete action game, we cannot add action elements that do not match up with the original game, or the world of Final Fantasy VII, that is." This to me would indicate that they are trying to be as true as possible to the original Final Fantasy VII while still creating a AAA game in the modern gaming era. This is quite possibly the best news to come out of this interview in my opinion. This also basically confirms that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is an action RPG and not just an action game as some have feared. Going further down this path, Biwa stresses that when designing action elements for the remake, they were limited by the events and lore of the original game. For instance, climbing scenes like when Cloud and party have to climb the broken junk pile up to Shinra's headquarters will be reimagined with better action sequences than the original game. In my opinion, if they stick true to the lore and events of the original Final Fantasy VII, but just make everything a little bit more engaging and impactful, then the Final Fantasy VII Remake has a true chance of being a fantastic game. In the interview, Biwa also points out that transitioning between 2D and 3D has been a real challenge for the team. For those who don't know, or may be new to Final Fantasy VII, the original game was in a style sometimes called 2.5D, meaning parts of the game, such as character models, were in 3D, while other parts, like most of the environments, were in 2D. Those 2D environments are what Biwa and his team have had challenges reimagining, and it's easy to see why as well. There is literally an entire dimension of content missing that needs to be developed for the remake, and doing that in a way that pays homage to the original game is something I am sure they are taking the time to do right. Personally, I am extremely excited to see classic locations such as Aerith's house or wall market completely rebuilt and reimagined in that third dimension. And that was basically it for the high-level notes from the BWA interview. Let me know what locations you're really stoked to see reimagined down in the comments below, and also let me know if you find these interview breakdown videos interesting. I've been trying to refine my remake-based content on this channel based on your suggestions, so let me know down in the comments below what kind of content you'd like to see. And I'll be continuing to cover the Final Fantasy VII Remake right here on Less Than Epic, so thanks for watching everyone, and thank you for your continued support of our channel. If you like the video, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little bell icon so you get notified when our videos go live. This has been Radical Edward for Less Than Epic, signing out.